We are live. Welcome back to Nerdgasm. We got another match in our tournament right now. We have, I think it's a 2 versus a 15 or something crazy like that. But who freaking knows? It doesn't really matter. You'll just play the next winner. So basically, we got Malcolm versus Dominic tonight. This will be an actually interesting debate. They both lost their first debate against the person they were facing. Dom had faced one of the worst pitches of all time, and still he lost. So that was very interesting. Shout out to Jay Burns for actually doing a really good job of selling Snap Back to Reality on Avengers. But I'm not here alone. My judges are here. 2 people that I respect really well in debate. Caleb Coho, you're here tonight. How are you doing? And thanks for not wearing that damn crown and shaving your mustache.
I am doing good. We behind the scenes pulled the curtain back. We recorded the Fandom Awards, myself and Kane, today, and I made the in memoriam, and I've not laughed harder at anything than my in memoriam. So I hope you like that. But I'm excited to see Rizzi and Malcolm back in the Nerdgasm debate leagues, and it's going to be really fun to see Rizzi not have to argue against Snap Back to Reality this time.
All right. And
I'm
a
never
guy
gonna
that
live
I
that down.
respect whole heck of a lot. Hopefully the debate that I whooped his ass in comes out before this. If it doesn't, well, spoiler. Henry Sanchez, a guy that I actually look up to in debate. How are you feeling, and how do you think tonight will go?
What? Where am I? Oh my God! I just woke up from a nap and I get transported into this call. No, I'm just kidding. This is gonna be a lot of fun. This is gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm here to talk, or not. I'm actually not talking. I'm here to listen and hear people talk about nerdgastic movies, and I kind of want to see some nerdgasms on screen. So Dominic, let it out. Malcolm, let me have it.
Okay, well, this is why we don't invite Henry normally to places, because he's not family friendly. All right,
No.
guys. So what we did is they all picked. We randomized 8 categories, and the competitors get to pick 5 of them, and they sprinkled them out. So Malcolm actually picked the first one. He picked Wizarding World, but Dom got first pick. So question number 1 is, what was the best magical object in the Harry Potter universe? And Dom, you're going to start. Malcolm will close on it, okay?
Let's see. So I got the first 5 seconds, all right? So I went with the port key. And the reason why I went with said item is because, think about it. In our daily lives, how busy are we always? We're always trying to get from place to place, and we're always wondering, man, I could really use something that could teleport me there. And now the go-to in the Wizarding World would be Apparition, but the thing is, only people that are 17 and older can use Apparition. So what do you do when you have like an entire family of people who can't operate? Well, that's, my friend, when you have a port key, a magical item that you literally touch, it can generate you to any place, so long as the spell is pre-programmed to get you to said place beforehand.
Awesome. And I did not reiterate this. You'll have a minute open, 45-second close, so just let you know. So I will count you down, but you finished early, so good job.
Awesome.
Malcolm, tell us what magical object you chose.
I went with the Time Turner. This is one that you can use to sort of find out what happened in the past. You can if you're solving a crime, you need help finding evidence. You can go back in time and hide and see what's happened and pick out sort of evidence and know things go. Problem for the port key is it has to be sort of pre-planned, and you've got to make sure that where you're going to is muggle-proofed in that already.
All right. Pad and late night approach. Indeed. All right, cool. All right, you guys got 5 minutes. Don't try to filibuster. Don't talk over each other, but have a clean debate starting now.
All right, so Malcolm, to my knowledge, and again, I could be totally wrong on this, but to my knowledge, that only happens with the muggle-proofing area. That only happens when it's like another government employee that's like the Ministry of Magic is in charge of setting up the port keys. But in terms of like having unregistered port keys, like off the docket port keys, like those are just like free reign. So that makes it easier. Number 2, time turner, time travel. Like you're already opening up a whole new set of doors just making things more confusing. Like, how many times have Wizards said, you want to talk about like tedious? Sure, you can go back in time, but you have to go out of your way to make sure that you can't that you don't interfere or like run into your previous self. That sounds like way more work than anything having to do with a port key, which just brings you from one place to another. Time travel, you got to worry about like going back in time, like worrying about running into your previous self, having to like take careful steps to undo it, and it's already like confusing to watch as it is.
Yeah, but I mean the thing about port key is it takes a long time to set up, as you got to actually charm the object and stuff. With the time turner, you can use it straight away. Like like the port key, it's good, but the process of doing it's uncomfortable, and a lot of people it makes people really nauseous as well. Like it's a lot easier to use like other things like flu powder and stuff like that, but even those have limitations. But
exactly, bouncing off your point. Yeah, bouncing off your point, limitations, and also that's why you just have somebody else do it beforehand. That's why you don't actually do the work yourself. You pay somebody else in order to get said already pre-programmed port key versus time turner. First off, the ministry already destroyed the entire time turner vault, so I don't know where you're getting any, if there are any survived. Number two, even if you could get your hands on one beforehand, they're basically made illegal because time travel is illegal. So that makes it even more of a hassle. And unlike port keys, which is basically like the way that like New York State is like looking down on marijuana now, you basically have to like go. They take time travel like really fucking seriously. So you have to go through all sorts of shit, all sorts of regulations in order to like just get your hands on one legally. And illegally, that's just made even more difficult. It's not like becoming an anime just illegally.
Yes, but the other thing about port keys, as you said in there, is like you got to pay people to set it up. It's like, but if you're a really poor family and can't afford to do it, then you're not going to be able to pay. It's like with time turn, like yes, the whole thing is destroyed, but in this hypothetical scenario, which we don't know if there's any that are still around, but for all we know, there could still be some around, even though it's not actually mentioned in the books. But you could, like, there's so many things you can do sort of that help you with time turners.
Yeah, and just taking the hypothetical out of like time turners obviously not existing anymore. The other big thing too with port keys is that, so a time turner obviously is like really obvious. You know, you hang it on a Netflix, and it's like it's pretty ornately designed necklace. So like it would be pretty obvious. That's why Hermione like had to hide it. But with a port key could literally be anything. It could literally be anything. So even if you didn't want to use it for the purposes that I said it before, you could literally just throw anything down and like fool your friends in it, and really, it's really great for pranks. It's obviously, besides just basic teleportation, like you could literally do so much because anything could be a port key. This freaking eraser could be a port key. It'd be great. Literally anything. Versus a time turner, it's just like a big hunk of jewelry that you have to carry around and worry about losing, just like every other bit of jewelry there is.
Yes, but even though you could easily lose the time turner, you can hide it under your jacket and no one will know. With port keys, what's to stop
1 minute
a muggle walking? What's to stop a muggle walking their dog, and the dog's sort of seeing this random object on the ground and just picking it up, and then all of a sudden this muggle has been transported far away from the dog. It's like,
okay, I'm sorry, but like if there's one thing I've learned, it's that wizards who leave magic shit out to be found by muggles are stupid, and like again, that just comes down to like which wizard is smarter kind of thing. It's like, I'm sorry, but like if you are dumb enough to leave a port key around and be found by a muggle, then quite frankly, like yeah, you deserve to be found by muggles if you're that dumb to let it be found. How much time we got, Cody?
Okay, barely dead space. We barely had nothing else to say. Cool. All right, so we're gonna do 45 seconds close. Malcolm, you're gonna go first. Then you'll follow down. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I mean, the thing about time turners, there's so many sort of good benefits that you can use them for. Because I mean, they're easy to hide there, and you don't need to worry about forgetting about where you left it, and that you can sort of use it to help solve crimes and go back in time to. There's so many good ministry applications like the crimes thing. But also you can use it to study for history of magic by going to see the event firsthand. With portkeys, they easy to be found by like muggle dogs and stuff, and you've got to charm them to let them know where you're going.
Time. Muggle dogs. Okay. Malcolm. No, Dominic. You start. 45 seconds.
Let me just close with this. And the biggest reason why a portkey is better than a time turner. With a time turner, Voldemort could have won the entire war within 3 seconds. With a portkey, all Voldemort can do is transport to his location. The portkeys versus time turners literally stop a war. Time turners would literally allow for Voldemort to have won the war. That is why time turners suck. They do nothing but cause problems. Portkeys are problem solvers. They can get you from one place to another, and they, in a way, portkeys can be responsible for differentiating smart wizards versus dumb wizards, because dumb wizards will leave portkeys out to be found by muggles. Done.
Perfect. All right. There was a huge trump card that was never said, so that's very interesting, but we'll see where everybody's deciding factor goes. I'm going to go to Henry first. Henry, who do you got? And yeah.
So I almost wanted to just completely knock out Dom for that closing argument, bringing up the whole Voldemort thing. Like, what are you doing? Like, who cares? What does that have to do with anything? Like, now you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But overall, speaking of everything that they're talking about, I felt like Malcolm, he had some really good points bringing up why the time turn is important, but I felt like Dom was able to knock that down enough, and I don't think Malcolm had enough defending like the diversity of, other than he just said you can go back in time and, study stuff, or you can go back and change history. And then I really felt like Dominic talked about the, the obstacles and stuff in the way. And he just said like just the practicality of a portkey is just a lot easier and a lot more practical. So I'm going to go with Dom, despite that terrible closing.
Yeah, the closing was pretty rough. Caleb, going to go to you next. Who do you got and why?
I'm going to also throw my vote to Dom because Dom just kind of had this argument from the outset. Malcolm can never really rebut anything Dom really said. Yeah, when it came down to it, I think Dom just his closing was shit. But it came down to the body of the argument and the openings, and Dom was winning it all the way through that for me. So I got to give my point to Dom.
Okay, so Dom takes the first point. Really surprised that the portkey being can be literally cursed and deliver you to Voldemort's feet wasn't brought up because that's the ultimate trump card. Basically, the time turner could reverse that spell, but the other one gets you killed. So yeah, but
diversion.
Or if Voldemort didn't hex it to the right spot, he could time turn and make it the right spot. Apparently, according to Dom.
Exactly.
Literally brought up the Dom.
You're making my points for me.
Okay. So it's 1-0, but we got plenty. It's first 3. So the next question was, what is the best decade to be a fan of DC Comics? So we're doing the movies, just to let everyone know. And Malcolm, you're going to lead off. So tell us what you picked.
So the best decade to be a fan of DC Comics, I've got the 2000s, because this is one of the decades that it really shows that there was definitely some good ideas when it comes to the movies. Like, you've got The Dark Knight, which a lot of people argue is the best DC movie ever made, and you've got Batman Begins, which is also pretty good, but you also got like V for Vendetta, which is under the DC banner as well. So there was definitely a few well-made movies in that decade.
All right. Patton saving some time on the viewing. All right, so Dom, you open next. Tell us why.
So Malcolm kind of just made. So Malcolm just made a little bit of my point for me in that The Dark Knight. Yes, that's the sole reason why DC was the best in the 2000s. Except here's the thing: there's that little movie that I love, needless to say, called Watchmen. Can you think of any other major DC movie that came out in the 2000s that people actually like to talk about? No, exactly. That's what because a majority of the DC films that people like and people talk about came out in my decade, which is the 2010s. Now, it may not seem that way on the surface, but throughout the argument, I will prove why it is the best decade for DC films.
All right. You're going to really have to convince us that that's
the case. I know. I've got a mountain to climb, but I'm going to do it.
Again, it's all based on the argument. So you guys got 5 minutes, free form. Please tell me why your decade. Well, again, this is a problem in a previous match. They started arguing movie bases and stuff like that, and it's great. But my main thing is battle why it was the best in that decade versus decade. I do not want to hear Dark Knight versus Wonder Woman. Like, I do not want that right now. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Dark Knight Rises. That was an easier joke.
Okay, so please, start 5 minutes now.
Yeah, so the thing about the 2010s is, well, yes, you've got decent movies like Wonder Woman and everything, but you've got a lot of movies that a lot of critics would say are the worst of the DCEU, because you've got Batman vs Superman, you've got Suicide Squad, you've got Justice League. I mean, you've really got a lot of shit in the 2010s. With the 2000s, like Batman Begins and The Dark Knight alone are both critically acclaimed, and a lot of critics do love them, and they're really well made. Christopher Nolan really brought Batman sort of out of the slump that was Batman and Robin. So
yeah, except again, I'm only hearing Batman Begins, The Dark Knight. Don't get me wrong, those are great movies, but those are just 2 movies. Versus, we're talking an entire decade here, and I'm going to tell you the one thing that my decade has over yours. So, what's the biggest thing that everybody always says about The Dark Knight? Oh, people love it. People love it. It's great. He's Legend of the Joker. It's great. It's great. It's great. All blah 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 blah. Except what has pretty much every single DC movie that's come out, with the sole exception I would think being Green Lantern, because that's pretty much universally, like, everybody hates it. But what did every single DC film, I'm talking live action DC film that came out this decade do? I'm talking every single one, and not just for of it being a Batman movie. It got people talking. Man of Steel, say what you will about the first 2/3, but every single person was divisive on that ending about whether or not it actually had something to say or whether or not it was just a mess. Regardless of what the overall critical appeal was, it got people talking. It got the hype train going. Same thing for The Dark Knight Rises. The Dark Knight Rises remained one of, if not the, after Man of Steel, most critically divisive DC film. Because again, people either love it or hate it. But again, we're not talking about like one thing. We're talking about getting competition going. And with, again, you're right, the steam pile that for the most part that has been the DCEU, what has every single entry gotten people doing? Talking, hyping up, and anticipating what is going to come next. And this is, and I'm also going to break down a big controversy regarding hype. Hype does not come from how good or bad the movie is. Hype comes from how popular a property is and whether and how talked up certain people will make it. That is what it is. Because guess what? Suicide Squad, Batman vs Superman, you could talk all day long about how good, bad, whatever those movies are. But at the end of the day, people still spent months, close to even years, talking about them. And just if we're talking in terms of success, like DC has not, arguably, I would say DC has not seen a decade for film like this. Not in the 90s, not in the 2000s.
Malcolm, go.
Yeah, but just because you a movie, even though the sequel gets you talking, does not mean that it makes your decade the best one. It just means that your decade has had the most movies come out in it. The thing about the 2000s, like, and I'm going to put the Nolan movies aside, but you've also got V for Vendetta. You've also got Superman Returns. Like, Superman Returns also, like you said, got people talking. But I mean, it's one that people do love. And I mean, I like it over Man of Steel personally, but that's just my opinion. It doesn't matter to the argument. But because the 2000s is a better decade because, like, you've got a lot more well-made movies than the 2010s just has a lot of movies.
2010s, yeah, definitely does have a lot of movies. But the reason why I say it's the best is because you don't really have another decade with movies quite like it. Yeah, sure, the 2000s may be better in overall quality, and like, yeah, you may have a more consistent waylay of movies, but just for the terms of overall interest that each film is offered up. And I'm not just talking live action here, I'm talking animation, because keep in mind, this is DC-wise, this is also the same decade they gave us the Flashpoint Paradox of film, which still might be one of my favorite DC entries, and this is going to sound even crazier, Teen Titans Go to the Movies, which is one of the funniest and best animated efforts that I've seen both this year and this entire decade, which is basically doing what Deadpool and Lego Batman did, but smartly breaking down conventions associated not only with comic book movies, but specifically with DC movies in general. And there certainly has been no other decade like the 2010s. And honestly, in my opinion, no better time to be a fan of DC Comics, because regardless of how good the movies are, people are going and they're seeing them and they're talking about them, and that generates hype for each next movie. And so, yes, you get something like Wonder Woman, which is for the most part universally beloved, or you get something like Justice League, which, again, another 50-50 split. People are talking about them, and that's what makes it engaging, and that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it awesome.
Well, it's called time. Okay, time. All right. Dom, feature reference. Yep. Be careful on filibustering.
You got it.
And sometimes less is more. I will just say that. The closing can do a lot here, Malcolm and Dom. So,
got it.
45 seconds. Malcolm, you open, so Dom, you're going to start. So, all right. I know you just finished talking, but do it.
Yep. That's fine. Come on, Cody. It's me.
Go.
The 2010s is the best decade for DC films, because in a decade that gave us the Academy Award-winning Suicide Squad, Justice League being an absolute flop, and that's just me objectively stating, Justice League was a financial flop, and to the point where now Aquaman is the saving grace of the DCEU, quite possibly. We're talking box office wise. Like, you cannot tell me that the 2000s equals that in any way, shape, or form. Like, 10 years ago, the most that people had to look forward to was George Miller's Justice League Mortal, which never even ended up happening. Like, now, look, if George Miller tried to make Justice League Mortal now, he would have no problems making it if he was still interested in it. That is why the 2010s is the best decade for DC Comics film.
Okay. Malcolm, tied up into a nice bow. Here we go.
The thing about the 2010s is, out of all the movies, it's more quantity over quality. But the thing is, with the 2000s, the reason it's a better decade is, like, you've got a lot of good quality movies in there. You may not have a lot of movies full stop, but all the movies are well made. They're perfect and flawless. Because V for Vendetta is a really good movie. You got The Dark Knight, Batman Begins. With 2010s, you've got the majority of the DCEU, with the exception of two saving graces. So, I mean, it's one of those ones. The thing is, what is the best decade?
Time. Whew. Okay. I won't say anything yet, but I will literally say I think Henry, Caleb, and myself wish we were in the ring right now. So this is a unique style of debate. I will go first. This is very unique because sometimes in debate, some people feel like they have to be on the offensive and like say everything, but sometimes you back yourself into a corner and really sound bad. And I don't mean to be insulting, but I think the argument of people talking about it does not make it a better movies at all. I think that is just opinion based at that time, and I think that just makes more divisive. Downward. I think the jabs that Malcolm did lay out were great, and you didn't help yourself down by saying the Academy Award winning Suicide Squad. I will say that right now. So my point actually does go to Malcolm because less is more is the argument, but that's why I have three judges here. I could be wrong. I'm going to throw it to Caleb next. Caleb?
No, I kind of agree with you. I think Dom had a unique approach and it was interesting, but I feel like he went a little too hard on it where he said more than he needed to and it kind of hurt him. And then that allowed for Malcolm to just kind of sit back and ride the wave of like, there's some good DC movies this decade, whereas Dom was kind of just talked about how his movies sucked, but they got attention. And I don't know. I don't really I kind of understand what it was going for. It just didn't really work for me, so I'm going to give my point to Malcolm.
Yeah, I think with adding on that, I just think there wasn't a lot of talk about movies. Basically, like it was just overall like this has happened, and they mentioned stuff, but it wasn't anything. Again, I would love to see the same question debated between like Caleb and Henry right now. Henry, what was your thoughts?
So this was an entire 5 minutes of name drops when you have 10 movies. So when you just saying titles 10 times, pretty much, it's really hard to gauge what would be considered better. So when you have one person saying that his decade is full of perfect films, regardless if it's opinion or not, and you have another guy saying, well, my films aren't that good, but it's got you talking, I guess I'm going to have to go with the guy who says he has perfect films. I mean, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, just for future reference, talk about the movies, films, plot, story, structure, everything. Like, don't just talk
Transcended
about
stuff like that. Yeah. This is twice in 2 debates that the year's questions have been literally a fight. So this is interesting. Okay, so we're tied. So if anything, we're still going to at least one speed round, so that will be fun for tonight. The final question, I believe that it was based on non-imps. I don't know exactly the genre that we chose, but it ended up being Malcolm changing it to just Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so we came up with a question. If I've never seen this show, I will just fully say it. You have to sell me basically on what you're doing. And the question is recast Phil Coulson. So tell me who you would replace him and why he would be better than what is currently in place, which is a challenge in itself. So Dom, you start.
Oh, I was about to say I went last time, so I thought Malcolm was starting.
Did you start first last time? I thought Malcolm went with 20.
Malcolm went first with 2000, and I did 2010.
Whenever you're ready.
So I'm going first?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. I figured that was the confusion. Sorry. Yes, you're going first. 1 minute whenever you're ready.
Well, when this question came up, I was thinking, it's like, because it's really hard to replace Clark Gregg as Phil Coulson because he's so perfect as it is. But if I had to, the person who would be really good to be recast is Matthew Fox. Coulson, I think Matthew Fox could pick up the qualities of Coulson in really good as being like his agent type character because he. From what Matthew Fox did in the movie Vantage Point, he is a good in that type of role. So I mean, you need someone who can be a leader. You need someone who can sort of be in charge, and I'll get more into that into the main debate.
Perfect. Well done, Malcolm. Great opening. Dom, follow that.
Okay, so don't get me wrong. I love Clark Gregg for the small parts that he's played in the movie. But the problem is, and as much as I love him on the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is such a boring, traditional, by-the-book, like, cop drama until they started to add some of the sillier elements story-wise later on. But we're not talking story-wise, we're talking character-wise. So who would I get? I would get the one guy who's, quite frankly, entire career who's just shot in the arm, and that's Charlie Sheen. And the reason why I go with Charlie Sheen is because, I mean, come on, first off, coke-fueled tiger blood from Mars. That's, however the fuck that quote goes. That's all I'm going to use to end my opening argument. I'll let the main argument speak for themselves.
Ooh, I actually just had to go back in the chat to see what you picked, and holy shit. Okay, so this might actually have more passion than the last one, so let's hope that happens. Malcolm, are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay, I just saw your screen, so I didn't know if you were gone. So, okay, 5 minutes. Again, no filibustering. Try to let each other have times. Ready, set, go.
So, like, of all the people that replaced Clark Gregg, you want to go with Matthew Fox, who not only is A, the worst part of Lost, but B, one of the most boring blank-faced actors you want to go with. That's like trying to, like, take a boring show and try and make it even more boring. Meanwhile, you put Charlie Sheen into the lead of this character, not only do you have, like, this weird Jake Peralta-esque Archer-esque character, but you have a chance to make that show 1,000 times more interesting, regardless of whatever superhero silliness it is. You have Charlie Sheen just in there reacting to everything and just being like, oh, what's that? And just being his usual nutty self. And then to top it off, you make the story more interesting by having him seem incompetent at first, and then just end up being even better than everybody else with the agents, kind of forces them to respect him as a leader, even though he doesn't necessarily come off as, all the screws are there, which ends up making a more effective character drama and just a better show overall than what we have to begin with.
We don't need Coulson being a nutty character. The problem with Charlie Sheen is the controversy follows him everywhere. He's very controversial, and he's one that a lot of people might turn off the show if he was cast in it. With Matthew, for Coulson, you need someone who is a proven leader, and Matthew Fox has proven that he is a good leader by his role as Jack on Lost. Charlie Sheen has not done anything in which he's shown to be acting-wise in any way a competent leader. Because living in this world in which the Coulson in the movies was still Clark Gregg, and they were recasting him before the show, then you need someone that's going to keep that same personality. Charlie Sheen would not, in any sense of the word, keep that intact.
And my question to you is, why the hell not? Why wouldn't he? If anything, the whole thing was that Coulson, supposedly died and was brought back to the Avengers, right? What if, when they were bringing it back, they had to do, some facial reconstruction surgery and bring back Charlie Sheen? Because not only would that, is that actually, kind of a good writing excuse that TV shows go to all the time, but also, I'm telling you, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the episodes that I've seen is so goddamn boring and by the book. And, I can't, those characters are all, they're so pretty. It's very, there are points where that show feels CWS. And just, you put a nutball like Charlie Sheen in there, regardless of the controversy, I really think people would watch. And if there's one thing I've learned, is that after a certain amount of time, it's the right kind of controversy. I'm not saying all controversy, but the right kind of controversy will let a person make a comeback. And at this point, with how, nutty the internet is and just how willing they are to clamor on to really anything that just lights up. I'm telling you, Charlie Sheen in that role, oh man, and you got forget Daredevil, you got the best Marvel show on the air right now. And we talk about lead performances. He led 2 different shows, 3.
Yeah, even though yes, he's led shows, but he wasn't playing a leader in those shows. And you want to go to the usual trope every TV show goes when they have to recast a character of going, oh, they went into cosmetic surgery and had their face changed. Seriously, a lot of shows do that. It really gets very cliche and very boring a lot of the time. Not only that, Charlie Sheen is not a good actor at all. He's good in some of his early comedies, but a lot of the stuff he's been in recently has failed. It's been not good.
He's failed because he's worked with people who don't know how to utilize his talents properly.
1 minute.
I don't know about you, but every single thing that I've seen that Charlie Sheen has been good in, he's been great in. And when he's on point and on fire and hilarious, he is effing hilarious. And I think that you give him the right material to work with. I'm telling you, it's a really easy mix. You make him Jake Peralta meets Archer, where, yes, he's got the attitude. Yes, he's potentially got some side problems. Yes, he's clearly, at first, everybody takes him for granted and thinks he's a total idiot. But again, he pulled out completely last minute that, A, he is a surprisingly good and charming leader, but B, he also actually has a really good understanding of how to handle these situations and is the person, and it turns out to be the person that everybody looks to when they need a crisis solved.
Yes, but the character of Coulson is not an idiot. He's not a crazy person.
Cody, your microphone's still off.
Time. That was a pretty good argument. I was really surprised. Well done, guys. And one competitor I'm really surprised with. Well done. So, 45 seconds, closing. You can still sell the other judges, so let's see. Dom, you start. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think that Charlie Sheen would give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a shot in the arm. I think that he is the perfect choice. I think that in terms of explaining why he's all of a sudden an idiot and recasting, first of all, he would be recasting before the show even started, so that wouldn't be a cliche that would happen in the show. It would happen before the show, from the transition from the movies into the show. And B, you don't know what could have happened during the surgery. His brain could have been completely fried during the surgery, and he could have come out. And if anything, this process of becoming Charlie Sheen would end up happening to make him like recover his memory and recover what made him good. So if anything, that makes his character even more interesting than it was before.
Time. Perfect. All right. Malcolm, 45 seconds whenever you start.
Yeah, but you won't want someone who can capture the same essence that Coulson had in the movies. If you suddenly change the character so drastically for the TV show, it could turn a lot of fans off the show. You want someone who has proven he can act as a leader, which Matthew Fox has done in Lost, and he's even proven that he can be a agent in the movie Vantage Point. Charlie Sheen is a comedic actor. He's very controversial, and like a lot of this controversy tends to follow him around. But he's too much of a nutbone to change a character could do detriment.
Whew. Really good debate. I'm going to let Caleb start it off. So, Caleb?
Yay.
Don't
This
screw
was
up.
actually really difficult, but I think Malcolm did a really good job of knocking down some of Dom's reasons for Charlie Sheen, while also kind of doing a pretty good job, at least, of convincing me why Michael J. Fox would be a good pick. And
Matthew
he also
Fox, he said.
Matthew Fox.
Matthew Fox. I don't know where that came from. Sorry.
Couldn't even remember the guy's name.
This
How bored
is-
he is.
Caleb, go back to the future and
I'm
watch
gonna
the
go
debate.
back to the future right now and just
Yeah,
say,
right.
hey, Malcolm, I give my point to Malcolm, and I'm gonna shut up before I embarrass myself more.
All right. Henry, I hope you can discern between Michael J. Fox and Matthew Fox. Who would you give the point to?
So Malcolm J. Fox did a really good job of debating who. No, I'm just kidding. But who he was debating for Matthew Fox, and it actually, like when he said the name, I was like, okay, that's an interesting pick. And then he started talking about the characteristics and how he's going to grow and everything. And then Dom, don't get me wrong, Dom started off in a 6-foot hole. Towards the end, he dug his way out, but he broke even. Malcolm the entire time was riding a high, and he did a really good job. And I'm giving it to Malcolm, but I do give credit to Dom for making it close towards the end.
All right. And I would have also went with Malcolm. Again, I think those choices sometimes are outlandish and crazy, but you can almost convince somebody sometimes. I think where you're mainly going is that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is boring, and it needs to do something to make it more interesting. Instead, Malcolm was like, I like the show, and if we had to replace the guy I like, this is who I would do it with because I like this guy. And he just sold it really well. And also, Malcolm, I think that since I've heard you debate and been around, I think that was arguably your best debated round of all time. I think you did. I think you handled yourself really well there. Well done. So it is 2-1. So this is game point going into the speed round. Again, I had to check with Brooklyn just to make sure what our speed rounds are. They're a little bit longer than most speed rounds, but we do 40-second, 30-second. So again, a little bit more detailed time, a little bit to get it out there. Please, you can, but I wouldn't suggest leaving time on the table if you don't have to, okay? So this is different than the rest of them. It's first person I hear. And your guys picked DreamWorks Animation for your first speed round question. So besides the main three, the best fairy tale creature from Shrek.
Gingerbread Man.
Man?
Oh, hold on. I gotta think about this. Shit, there's a lot to pick from.
I should say main four. You can't do the main four.
Oh my god. Fuck Pinocchio.
Okay, fair enough. It's actually exactly who I thought might be picked, so that's cool. So I heard Gingerbread Man first, so Malcolm, you will go first. Start whenever you're ready. 40 seconds.
Gingerbread Man is one of the most interesting characters in the Shrek series. He may not get a lot of screen time, but he's really quotable. Like, whether it's Not My Gumdrop Buttons or You're a Monster, he's just one of those ones which a lot of the quotes that people think of Shrek are his. Yeah.
Leaving time on the table? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 40 seconds, Dom, whenever you're ready.
I think a lot of the people, I think of the side fairy tale creatures, like kind of follow them around. I think that Pinocchio is one of kind of like the more underlying ones. I think that he's got a lot of very subtle comedy to him. I think one of the best jokes in Shrek 2 is the scene where he gets hit by a magic blast and he actually becomes a real boy for a hot 2 seconds, and then he gets turned back into a puppet and he just shrugs. Like, that is actually a really genuinely hilarious moment that not a lot of people talk about. But just in terms of his character, I think he is a deeply tragic character, and the fact that the films constantly treat him for laughs is kind of just speaks to the overall brilliance of Shrek as it is. But I do also think that Pinocchio does have some truly memorable parts and does contribute well to the team of fairy tale creatures and helping Shrek overall in the universe, and that helps make him a better character.
Okay. The last bit, strike that from the record, judges. He did not do that in time. Okay, Malcolm, 30 seconds, whenever you're ready.
The problem with Pinocchio is that he is just a comedic relief. Is just used in the movies. With Gingerbread Man, he has a bit of heart to him. Like, he's the one that a lot of people use to torture. He's given a few crucial scenes in the movie that sort of shows his heart, and for me, heart is sort of the crux of what makes the great character.
Time. Dom, 30 seconds, whenever you're ready.
You want to talk about heart? Oh my god, Pinocchio, I think, has more heart than anybody else. He is a character that is self-aware of the fact that his one thing, and he only really wants the one thing, will most likely never come true, but even with that, he is still willing to go all out and help out his friends in any way, shape, or form. And to the point where he literally, like, lets himself be stepped over in order to help out his friends. Like, when he goes down and flies down the chute at the end of Shrek 2, like, and gets himself specifically tangled in there, he literally goes out of his way to tell lies in order to extend out his nose in order to help them. That, like, just shows how great of a character he is.
Time. All right. And Henry leans back, but I'm going to Henry first. So you could take some seconds if you need to think. But
this one was tough because Malcolm started off really hot, and because he talked about when you think of the quotes, you think of Gingerbread Man. When you think of the, obviously other than the main characters, you think of the funny stuff. You got that, and then I felt like Dom kind of like mirrored that, but he didn't really say any specifics, so I didn't really get that until the closing. He was talking about how he's able to sacrifice himself, and then Malcolm kind of didn't really have any specifics going on with his, just talking about he's got heart and stuff, but it's like it's kind of like just a throwaway line where it's like he's got heart, but it's like I don't know if I buy that because you could just be saying that, so I didn't get enough convincing. And the one sacrifice line from Dom I feel like is just a tad enough to give it to Dom.
Okay. So Dom gets one person to agree with him. Caleb, we'll go to you next. Who do you think wins this?
This was difficult because I think Dom did make some good points there about Pinocchio towards the end. I have to do the speed round thing that we do with Late Night, where you look at the opening and the closing and judge based on that. And I think when it came to closing, Rizzi had the stronger closing. Malcolm did say a lot of good points in his opening about how when you think about the iconic quotes, they're all gingy. I think I'm going to give my point to Malcolm because I think I can remember and think more about Malcolm's points and they resonate more with me. So I'm going to go with Malcolm.
Oh, he swayed me. Okay, I was like about to make the joke. Oh, Henry and Caleb actually agreeing on something for once. Nope, freaking shocker. They can't agree on this either. So this is a tough one for me. I think where it boils down for me is the 20 seconds left in the round one. I think Malcolm just didn't give me enough against Pinocchio as much as I needed. I think Dom in the full time was able to give me a breakdown of his character and a shot down on Gingerbread. Even though I strongly disagree on the characters, I would agree with Malcolm, but on this one, Dom sold me on the point, so I have to go with Dom. So it's 2-2. Going into the final question.
Okay. Am I actually doing well? What's happening?
I don't know about that.
Hey, yeah, that's you're here.
Yeah, right?
You showed up.
I'm doing better than I was against Jay. That's all I have to say.
I would be. I am so interested that I'm going to almost make Henry and Caleb debate question number 2 because I actually want that question actually debated out correctly. No offense to both of you. I just
Thanks.
those two are so strong debaters. I would love to see that question. Okay, but this is the final one. Again, we have this way when we include Fandom TV and Stuff TV. You can break it down subgenres. Malcolm did it again for us. He chose Community. In Community, here's a question. First person I hear gets it. Okay. What character would make the best roommate?
Abed.
Troy.
And Malcolm, you kind of broke up. Who did you choose?
Abed.
Okay. So, Malcolm, you start. Convince us why he's the best roommate.
Abed will make the best roommate because he's one of those ones that he really enjoys himself. He's one of those ones that he loves watching movies, and he's just a great person to hang out with. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Troy is he's can be annoying at times. He's also one of those ones which is just feels like is just one of those rappers who really practices all the time in his room, and he's doesn't really have that much to actually talk about apart from sort of rap music and stuff.
Time. All right, Dom, 40 seconds whenever you're ready.
When I think of somebody rooming with Abed, I think of someone rooming with me. And I'm not talking just about my charming self that I present for these video chats right here. I'm talking me in my entirety, in my full-on movie nerd rage entirety. And I think about that, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I would want to punch myself in the freaking face if I had to deal with that. And that's what I think of when I room with Abed. Abed if there's one thing I've learned about Abed over the 6-season journey that he goes through on Community, it is that he does nothing but talk about what he wants to talk about. Everything else is secondary. Troy is natural. He is casual, he is laid back, and it is for those reasons why he's one of the only people who can put up with Abed, which is why Troy's naturally the better choice to have as a roommate over Abed.
I've never seen somebody fluff themselves on camera before more than Caleb Coho, but Dom, congratulations, you topped that one today. So, Malcolm, 30 seconds. Start whenever you're ready.
I'll be the thing about it is like if you've got two people who really love the same things, it can click. Like I love talking about movies myself, so I would get on well with Abed. So, and the question was, who would you like to be a roommate with? And for me, I feel like I would annoy someone like Troy, which means Troy would not be the perfect roommate. So, a perfect roommate would be someone who loves what you love.
Time. Interesting approach. I like it. Dom?
Think about being roommates with someone is that the thing that makes you like roommates and like able to get along well is not your ability to bond over one thing, as with Abed is with Nerd Subject. It's your ability to be able to bond as people, and just looking at them as people who I want to bond with. I even want to go with the most personable person of the group, and that of course is Troy. Troy is what I found the reason why he gets along for the most part with everyone, even freaking Piers, who nobody goddamn likes, is because he is just that casual, and because no matter what happens, he is able to talk about everything, because no matter what happens, he's going to be goofy, versus Abed will all talk your ears off about all sorts of nerd topics, and not in a fun way, to the point where you will actually get annoyed by it and want them to shut up.
Phew. All right. That was actually really interesting on both sides. I would like 15 more seconds, but that's not how we run this thing. So cool. Caleb, I'm going to let you lead off. Don't screw this up.
This was actually really good, but I'm gonna give the slight advantage to Rizzi, because even though fluffing yourself up, I don't see a problem with that, Cody. However, I think he made the better argument of why that person would be the better roommate, and yeah. So I'm just gonna give it to Rizzi and we'll move on.
Okay, so I'll go next, and I'll let Henry decide this if it happens, because I'm going Malcolm. I kind of like the personal approach. It's almost like I knew that he was down in the fight, and he took a different spin, so it kind of made a stop and a pivot. So I really enjoyed that move, and it actually worked for me. It actually worked for me in selling why that would be a good comparison for it. I think Dom did a good chance of rebuttaling it, but it kind of changed his strategy where he had to go towards a different route. Because if Dom would have continued on the same path, I think he would have took it. But Malcolm kind of like stopped in the middle of the lane and made him like counteract what he said. So I appreciate it. Malcolm, you get that point from me. We have 3 judges. Henry, who wins this?
How fun is this? My very first debate. I'm ultimately deciding who wins the entire one. So, as you said in that, the openings from both of them, I got kind of descriptions of the characters, which was good because I've never seen Community, so I got the characters. But like you said, Malcolm kind of set the precedent for the closings by talking about them, and it ultimately became on passion versus annoyance. And when you think of personal preference, you kind of, if you're being biased and you're like, all right, what are you more likely to be convinced? Somebody's more passionate or somebody's more annoying? I'd feel the passion more than I would feel the annoying. I feel like being annoyed is more 50-50, whereas like sensing someone's passion is damn near 100%. So I'm going to go with the passion on this one, and I am also going to go with Malcolm. And
your winner, Malcolm, you won a debate. Congratulations. And Dom, you can now join Caleb with being the one question away pretty much kind of guy, because he'll let you know how to cope with that.
Malcolm, you finally beat me in something. You happy?
Woof. Woof.
Woof. Again, I'm so looking forward to question 2 getting debated at some point. But no, this was a really interesting debate. Again, when I started watching late night, Malcolm has improved so much over there, and you can kind of see it. You can kind of see when he doesn't prep fully for a question, and then when he really preps for a question, and you can see the differences. So I wish everybody would take it like pretty much the Phil Coulson one, because that was, I think, arguably one of your best ones. So I'll go to Malcolm first. Malcolm, how do you think you did tonight? Are you excited? And you're excited to be moving on to the next round?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I could have been out with that last one, because it's just one of those ones. And I mean, when I was prepping for the DC Comics one, I actually prepped too hard, because the way it was worded in the chat, I just thought it was going to be all of DC Comics. So I had things about the TV shows and comics as well. So it's like, so I was like, so it's like, oh shit. I knew going in, I probably put I had the wrong decade anyway, but it was too late to do anything about it. But I mean, I was just as surprised to win this. Just because I know Dom loves to talk, and he's
not wrong. He's not wrong.
And he definitely took me to the limit. Like, but yeah, I mean, I'm just as surprised as I was when I won a music jukebox debate. So
now, you might not know this because it didn't air, but this is going to air after it. Your next opponent now is going to be Robert the Hobbit Parker in Fandom Debate. How do you feel?
I'm so bad. I lost this.
How do you feel? And anything you say disrespectful will affect your score.
That's his client.
Do it, Malcolm.
Well, I can't possibly be disrespectful to Robert, because he loves the Hobbit movies just as much as I do. So, I mean, I'll just sign my default now,
probably smart.
Because last time I faced Robert in debate, I don't know if it's actually aired yet, but it did not go well for me then. So whether or not it goes well for me again, I don't know.
The person on this call debated him too, and it didn't go well for him either. But there was a lot of stuff going on at that time, so it's not actually his fault. Not getting the ice. Dominic, how do you feel like you did today? Do you think you could have done some stuff better? And no, you're not allowed to retire from this league, because I am definitely going to put you in another match. So congratulations for being welcome back.
Oh, I never retire from anything. I only leave places when I get kicked out or leave of my own volition. But retiring, I don't do shit in terms of retiring. But no, I had a really fun time. Malcolm was a really fun guy to compete against. I'm glad that I'm still able to do this, because in case you haven't noticed, with these types of matches, my goal, in case you guys haven't noticed, isn't always necessarily to win, but more so necessarily to just have fun, because it's a form. Think about it. It's me talking about and debating movies. Like, this is my prime, this is my forte. So regardless of whether I actually do well and like gain points in the judges' eyes, I'll still know that I'm at least giving 110% no matter what. The speed of how fast I get words out should be it should be a strong indication of that. And no, I had a really fun time. Looking forward to see who you put me up against next, Cody. And Malcolm, I wish you the best of luck against Robert. You're gonna need it.
All right, Caleb. I kind of threw a jab at you. I didn't mean to. How are you feeling about how this debate went? And go ahead.
Didn't go well for me. Okay. All right. All right. All right.
It technically didn't.
All right. I mean, I would say I did well considering the circumstances, but sure. All right,
That's
Cody,
true.
you want to be a
That's
negative Newberry over there? This was a really good fight. Both of them just brought it. It was. I mean, I would obviously love to debate both of them at some point. I'm sure Henry was in the same boat with me, where we were just sitting there, just like, okay, interesting point, interesting strategy, bold strategy, Cotton. 9 times out of 10 did not pay off, but it was interesting to see them, take different approaches, the different ways that they came to the game, and I am very interested to see Malcolm versus Robert debate, because that is going to be a bloodbath and very fun to watch.
Yeah. Again, as somebody that now is a 2-time debate champion in these communities, regardless what you call Henry's thing, it hasn't aired, but I am a fucking champion. Show me some damn respect. But I always sit there on the opposite side and be like, well, wouldn't argue that point, would have totally changed that approach. But it's just who I am as a person, and this is the one thing that I can actually talk about. But another guy that I respect wholeheartedly at debate, he made me prep harder than anybody else I've ever had to fight. So Henry, how do you feel like tonight went? And yeah.
So I've seen Malcolm debate a bunch of times since the beginning of Movie Battleground and moving up into Late Night with Take 3 and right now. And you know what you're going to get from him if he's passionate about it, or if he actually like truly loves something, he could surprise you. And I'm really noticing that he's definitely a TV guy. when he was talking about TV, he was really able to get some jabs, and you could just tell the passion. He definitely was a lot quicker on his mind of like things with like jab backs, because Dominic, things just come out of his stupid face a lot. So Malcolm kind of had to rebuttal that, and I felt like with the TV he did a better job with that. And Dominic is similar to my good buddy Jake. You want to talk about the shit that nobody gives a shit about, but when you say things of quality, you actually do a really good job. It just doesn't happen that often. So you definitely are a work in progress. Practice makes perfect, but I'm definitely curious to see what you're going to do in the future. And yes, in the future, if you're asked about something, debate the movie. Don't just name drop. That's the best advice I can give you for the starter pack.
Okay. So yeah, that will be it tonight. We'll end with plugs again. Brooklyn is my co-lead on this. He is out with surgery right now. I'm interested to see what he would have ruled on these things. But we'll go with plugs. We're going to start with the winner. Malcolm, where can the good people find you?
You can find me on Take 3 Productions, where I host my own show, Rankum. I don't know what the topic was yet, because this hasn't out yet. But yeah. But you can also find me competing in trivia on Multiplex and Full Metal. And you can also find me on Instagram, Letterboxd, and Stardust at Melkor.
Awesome. And Dom, the loser tonight. But we'll be back. Where can the good people find you?
Wait, rub that in nice and good, Cody.
You can do the Charlie Sheen fan club.
Right. You can find me on Twitter at Movie Nerd Review. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at my name, Dominic Rizzi, on Letterboxd at Dom81797, and on YouTube at Movie Nerd Reviews, where I'm currently on hard work editing my next couple of videos that I will be releasing this month.
Dom, I hate more than normal people because of a trivia match that he wrote, and no disrespect to him, I still just hate him for it. Caleb, where can the good people find you?
You can find me right here on Multiplex Entertainment, where I host Fandom Fight on Fridays. I help out with Movie Warzone on Mondays over there, where we're just kind of making sure the season sort of wraps up nice and smoothly. And you can find me and Jake Marangoni on Thursdays with the Co-Huskers, where we talk anything Oscar related. It's a new year-long show that we are officially debuting now here in 2019. So it comes out on Thursdays. The Co-Husker ceremony itself should be coming out sometime at the beginning of February. So we actually have people voting on it this year, so it's going to be really cool. Chance, Paul, Cody, Brooklyn, everyone is involved. If you're a Multiplex admin, and Paul and Chance. But yeah, it's going to be really cool. Check all that out. And yeah.
So as I'm a fresh face over here, you guys can find me on my personal stuff, Confidential Cinema on YouTube, and on our Facebook group page. We have trivia and we have our own debate club over there. We do a club thing, more small scale. No, you can't join, but you're feel free to watch and talk about it in the comments. And I'm trying to get more active on Letterboxd. So Henry Confidential, you go find me there. And I'm also joining here, so you'll see me teams with Jake Marangoni and also maybe in some singles. So definitely can't wait to get to know you guys.
Sweet. And you can find me on Take 3 Productions, where I help on 3 shows. Watch Along is returning on Wednesdays with me, Robert, Malcolm, and Matt. We're raising the panel just to leave some freedom out there to pick and choose movies. You can find me on Thursdays on Late Night with Take 3. We'll return in February, also known as Brooklyn's Wrong for 2 hours. You can find me on Sunday on Rankum, pretty much different episodes where I disagree with everybody, especially Ryan. Over here on Saturdays, I think, is Nerdgasm. I'm pretty sure. I don't know our schedule yet, but we'll have that entire tournament looking to crown somebody. Now Malcolm moves on to face Robert. First 2 matches are done. And you can find me Full Metal Geek, maybe helping. All right.